Peace. All right, all right. We'll get started in a few minutes here. Peace, peace. There you go, Self. What's going on, God? Peace, Chris. The internet savior. Peace, peace. All right, we're gonna get started in a few minutes here. Spread the word. I'm gonna send some info to as they say, Happy Euro New Year. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, that's how we say that. You know, our New Year don't start until March the 21st, the spring equinox, as they say. All right, you know what's going on. You know, if you take Sept, September, Sept is 7, Ak is 8, Nov for November is 9, Dec for December is 10. January will be 11, February will be the 12th, and then the first actually would be March. So January is in the new year. However, they'll continue like it is, because, those months still have Latin numbers, Sep, Ak, Nov, Dec, you know. So, octagon, octopus, tell you there's 8. So we know it as the 10th month, but it's really the 8th. So we know that August and July was added into the mix from the Caesars, Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar, So I just wanted to say that a little bit. Also, the name of the 6th, later the 8th month in the Roman calendar, which is August, was formerly renamed Mensis, Augustine, or Augustus, as they would call it, and it was called Sextilius, and Sextilius was the month of August before they gave it Caesar Augustine or Augustus, as they refer to him as. So you can just go and do your research on that, I'm going to get into the information concerning Harriet Tubman. Yeah, I've been waiting. I ain't want to jump on a bandwagon. Most people, that's what they do. They jump on the bandwagon as soon as the information come out, on this information. And, and they don't really sound too swift with the information to me, So I wanted to get into the Harriet Tubman info. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to pull that up. And of course, if there's, any questions right now, I can get to those before we get going. But I definitely want to get, to the Harriet Tubman. So let me go here. Boom. All right, so Harriet Tubman's true heritage. And the crazy thing is that Harriet Tubman wasn't even her real name, which they don't even tell you that. So that's the crazy part about it, but we'll get to it. Hey, tell me y'all if y'all can see the screen. You can see itself? You can see the screen for Harriet Tubman? Peace, Faithy. Tell me again, Self, if you can see the screen. No, not yet? Okay. I don't know what's going on here. You know how they always do my stuff, so I'm gonna try to get on here. Let's see. Share audio, share screen. Yeah, what about now, Seth? Can you see it now, Seth? It's up? Okay. Thanks, Kate. All right, Kite. Let me see here. All right. So let's go to that joint. All All right, so we're going to go into facts versus fiction. Not just fact, but facts with an S versus fiction. All right, we know that the movie came out. This is like a rundown for the biggest movie of the year. Of course, there's a couple of them, but right now we're going to deal with this Harriet Tubman movie. All right, so we know that for a fact that Harriet Tubman is the first feature-length movie or film to tell the story of the most famous woman in history, one of the most famous women in history, American history, that is. All right. We know that in the movie, it got played by Cassie Lyman's. Was the writer who did Eve Bayou. All right, and who actually played the character was Cynthia Erovo. Now, she made some comments earlier this year in which that threw dust on the fact of an African coming from Britain actually playing, an American, because she doesn't understand the science of slavery. And there's a science in that, and that's one of the reasons why we got to pick this science apart, so that we can know exactly how it works, how it affects us as a people. But as I was saying, Harriet Tubman was not her name. Her name was Araminta, which is Minty Ross. And if you come and find out and do some research about Betsy Ross, you'll find out that there was no Betsy Ross. All right. She didn't exist. Historically, that's just some myth, just like they told us about George Washington at the age of 9, telling his father, I cut down the cherry tree. I cannot tell a lie. I cut down the cherry tree. That bullshit. All right. So we've seen that over and over again, that they have put themselves in historical perspectives and then taught us this historical perspectives. And then later on, come to find out that it was bullshit. It was a lie. All right. So we're going to expose these lies today. All right. So let's get to them. Here go the movie. That's Cynthia Erivo right there, in the center at the top. All right, they would have us to believe that she was running, through the woods, just the woods, and she would find some type of refuge in good Albion's homes or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And no mistaking the fact that she did have Quakers helping her. Now, Quakers were the Rosicrucians, all right, oftentimes. The Quaker is a religion based on mysticism, the quake, in which that would be the Kundalini energy. William Penn was part of the Quakers, all right? And William Penn tells the truth about who he saw here on the Eastern Shores when he arrived, all right? He said there was Black natives, indigenous, aboriginals who was here when he came. Him being an immigrant, being a settler, being actually a colonialist, an invader, an alien, all right? But anyway, this is a book in which that you need the Underground Railroads. This is allegedly authentic narratives and firsthand accounts by William Still, all right? Now, as I was saying, about this British actor, African British actor, Cynthia Erivo. She faced some backslash because of comments that she made mocking so-called Black Americans. All right. Regardless of how she felt, of course, that was all tactics. There's always tactics in order to rev up anxiousness and sensationalism in order to make people go to these movies. All right. Now, this is what we find out. This is what was being said here, is that typical of mythic figures of the 19th century, Tubman's legacy is rife with misinformation. Much of the popular mythology about her isn't true. See, this is when we get into this information that the number of slaves she rescued on the Underground Railroad is usually inflated as high as 300, when it was closer to 70. The 40,000 bond or bounty on her never existed, and much of the lore regarding her using codes and songs during her mission is either inflated or simply wrong. There are also a number of quotes attributed to Tubman that she likely never said. The most popular is, "I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves." There is no record of her saying this, and it directly conflicts with her modesty about the number of slaves she freed. Okay, so some of this stuff is mythology. Now, people was getting upset about the fact that, like I said, this British actress, Cynthia Erivo, played a Black American / African American, American Negro, whatever term we want to refer. However, African American brothers and sisters have played Nelson Mandela, Winnie Mandela, Idi Amin, Steve Biko, Shaka Zulu, Asada, etc. Let's stop the petty divisiveness. United we stand. All right, Bob Marley, Malcolm X, Stokely, Dr. King, Louis Farrakhan are all Pan-Africanists. United we stand. Americans, all right, so Africans, are not trying to be like you. Africans are you, and you are Africans. All right, read Dr. Ben, Dr. Brian Surname, Dr. Clark, read, and know about yourself. You are not the descendants of slaves. You are descendants of kings and queens. The white man lied that you had no history before slavery. You have a great history in Mansa Musa. In fact, his brother, uncle, depending on the storyline, Abu Bakari II, Mansa Abu Bakari II, left from out of with over 2,200 ships. If there was 100 people on each one of those ships, then we're looking at 22,000 people. He brought a whole goddamn town, city with him on those ships. And they came to the Americas, and they said there's proof of coming up into Mexico, into the interior of Arizona, Texas, Arizona area, Nevada, and coming down into the southern section of Alabama, so forth and so on, right? And that was 200 years before Christopher Columbus. I've done lectures on this and video presentations on this already, all right? Kemet, Nubia, Zimbabwe, Benin, Kush, your history did not begin with slavery. You are the beginning of civilization in time. You are the first man and first woman. All races came from you. All right, so we know that to be the truth. So we find that the American story, as we get it, they tell you about Harriet Tubman being born in 1820, Dorchester County, Maryland, March 10th, 1913. And some say that she was born March the 16th or March the 17th through 18th, depending on which books. But and she died days before her birthday, March the 10th, 1913, Albany, New York. All right, Harriet Tubman was a runaway slave. This is what they tell us, from Maryland, who became known as the Moses of our people. Over the course of 10 years and at great personal risk, she led hundreds. Now, once again, we've seen where there was discrepancy, because it is said that we talking about 70. And then the quote is that they told us she freed thousands. Now it says she's led hundreds of slaves from freedom along the Underground Railroad, a secret network of safe houses. That was the Underground Railroad. Safe houses now, where runaway slaves could stay on their journey north to freedom. She later became a leader in the abolitionist movement, and during the Civil War, she was a spy for the federal forces in South Carolina, as well as a nurse. Now, we go on. Tubman, conductor of the Underground Railroad. Now, if she's just going from house to house, why, God damn, why is she using train lingo? Train lingo? Conductor, Underground, Railroad. We continue on. If anyone ever wanted to change her or her mind during the journey to freedom or return, Tubman pulled out the gun and said, "You'll be free or die a slave." Tubman knew that if anyone wanted to turn back, it would have put her and the others escaping slaves in danger of discovery, capture, and even death. She became so well known for leading slaves to freedom that Tubman became known as Moses of her people. As I said already, many slaves dreaming of freedom sung the spiritual Go Down Moses. Slaves hoped a savior would deliver them from slavery, just as Moses had delivered the Israelites from slavery. Well, no pun intended, the so-called slaves, which we refer to them as POWs, prisoners of war, were the Israelites and are the Israelites to this day, their descendants. We're one and the same, all right? When you hear brothers and sisters saying that they're Moors, that is Israelite, Hebrew tradition and connection, Moab, from out the Bible. Ruth was a Moabitess, right? And the Israelite, and also was a progenitor of Jesus, according to the genealogy in the Bible. Of course, we know that is all allegorical, but you got to understand, if you get the Bible, the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, you'll see the real meaning behind the words in which that was used in the genealogy, showing you how to transverse adversity, how to transcend adversity, I should say. All right. So Tubman made 19 trips to Maryland and helped 300 people to freedom. During these dangerous journeys, she helped rescue members of her own family, including her 70-year-old parents. At one point, rewards for Tubman's capture totaled $40,000. So it wasn't just one reward, it was many rewards in which that totaled $40,000. Yet she was never captured and never failed to deliver her passengers. Once again, conductor, Underground, Railroad, passengers. In fact, as Harriet Tubman herself said, on my Underground Railroad, I never run my train off the tracks. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, back on the scene. All right, anyway, that's old school. Y'all know nothing about that. I never lost a passenger. So wait. Once again, why is Harriet Tubman using train lingo. If she was not a real conductor, why is she using train lingo? I'm trying to figure this shit out. We're gonna figure this out together. But she said, on my Underground Railroad, I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger. Now, do that sound to you like she was just ducking in the woods, running from house to house, safe houses as they refer to it as? Get the book, Bound for the Promised Land by Kate Clifton Lawson. Understand that, I'm telling you the name of these books so you can read more in depth, but of course, this presentation will destroy most of the information that's in these books. I've read them years ago. Not very impressive personally, but Myths and Facts by Harriet Tubman and Selected Quotes and Misquotes. Right, let's look at them. Harriet Tubman rescued 300 people in 19 trips. That's a myth. Fact. According to Tubman's own words and extensive documentation on her rescue missions, we know that she rescued about 70 people, family and friends, during approximately 13 trips to Maryland. 13. All right. During public and private meetings during 1858 and 59, Tubman repeatedly told people that she had rescued 50 to 60 people in 8 or 9 trips. This was before her very last mission in December 1860, when she brought away 7 people. Sarah Bradford exaggerated the numbers in her 1868 biography. Bradford never said that Tubman gave her those numbers, but rather Bradford estimated that was the number. Other friends who was close to Tubman specifically contradict those numbers. We can name practically every person Tubman helped. In addition to the family and friends, Tubman also gave instructions to another 70 or so freedom seekers from the eastern shores who found their way to freedom on their own. Okay, so if you add the 50 to 60, and then you add the other 70 that she gave instructions or so to, then we can get that to around about 130, 150 to 170. Well, 140 to 120 to 140. All right? That's where we can get that to. But it wasn't 300 and it wasn't thousands. Okay? Myth. Harriet Tubman was born around 1820 in Bucktown, Dorchester County, Maryland, on the farm of Edward Bardis. Well, let's find out. Fact. According to the most recent research in oral traditions, Tubman was born in early 1822, not 1820, on the plantation of Anthony Thompson, Rodin's stepfather, located south of Madison in an area called Peters Neck in Dorchester County. Tubman was later brought to Bucktown with her mother and siblings to live on Bardis' small farm. Myth. Harriet Tubman had a $40,000 dead or alive bounty on her head. Is the fact. The only award for Tubman's capture is in a October 3rd, 1849 advertisement for the return of Minty and her brothers Ben and Harry, in which their mistress, Eliza Baldis, offered $100 for each of them if caught outside of Maryland. Slaveholders on the eastern shore of Maryland had no idea it was Harriet Tubman, or Minty Ross, as they knew her, who was helping and inspiring people to run away. The 40,000 bounty figure was made up by Sally Harley, a former anti-slave activist in New York, who wrote a letter to the newspaper in 1867 arguing for support for Tubman in her pursuit of back pay and pension from the Union Army. To put this in perspective, the United States government offered $50,000 for the capture of John Wilkes Booth, who murdered President Lincoln in 1865. $40,000 is equivalent to several $1 million today, and for that, she would have been captured, and every newspaper in the nation would have posted that advertisement. Myth: Harriet Tubman rescued people from all over the South. Fact: Tubman returned only to Maryland. Tubman returned only to Maryland to bring away loved ones, family and friends she could not live without and whom she could trust. It was too dangerous for her to go places where she did not know people or the landscape. Now, how did a so-called slave learn the landscape of Maryland if she was not indigenously from there? Where's the African roots of Harriet Tubman, or Minty Ross, as she's referred to as? From Maryland, then that means that she would be Lenape. I'm not going to get into that yet, meaning she would be Aboriginal, indigenous. Myth: Jacob Jackson operated an Underground Railroad safe house at his house or home in Madison, Maryland. Fact: Jacob Jackson, a free Black farmer and veterinarian, was Harriet Tubman's confidant. Tubman had a cold letter written for her in Philadelphia and sent to Jackson in December 1854, instructed him to tell her brothers that she was coming to rescue them and that they needed to be ready to step aboard the old ship of Zion. There is no documentation that he actually sheltered runaways in his home. Jackson would be referred to as an agent. Myth: Harriet Tubman helped build Stewart's Canal. Fact: Harriet Tubman did not help build the canal, which was built between 1810 and 1830, when she was still a child. She probably used it as a transport timber and agricultural products when she worked in the area as a young adult during the late 1830s and early 40s. We did not know if her father Ben Ross helped build the canal, but he certainly would have used it for transporting timber. All right, myth: Harriet Tubman used the quilt code to follow the Underground Railroad. Facts: Harriet Tubman never used the quilt code because the quilt code is a myth. Tubman used the various methods and paths to escape slavery and to go back and rescue others. She relied on trustworthy people, black and white, who hid her, told her which way to go, and told her who else she could trust. She used disguises. She walked, rode horses, wagons, sailed on boats, as we just seen. All right. In the myth up above. All right. It's stated that she told her brothers to be ready to step aboard the old ship of Zion. All right, the old ship of Zion. All right, so once again, she walked, rode horses, wagons, sailed on boats, and rode on real trains. God damn. We just busted that shit up. Because once again, oh Lord, we running through the woods and that's all we doing. So once again, she used disguises, she walked, rode horses, wagons, sailed on boats like old ship of Zion, and rode on real trains that she was the conductor of. You get it? These are facts. She used certain songs to indicate dangers or safety. She used letters written for her by someone else, allegedly, to trusted individuals like Jacob Jackson. And she used direct communication with people. She bribed people. She followed rivers that snaked northward. She used the stars and other natural phenomena to lead her south. She also trusted her instincts and faith and guide and comfort her during difficult and unfamiliar territory and times. Myth: Harriet Tubman carried a rifle on her Underground Railroad rescue missions. Fact: Harriet Tubman carried a small pistol with her on her rescue missions, mostly for protection from slave catchers, but also to encourage weak-hearted runaways from turning back and risking the safety of the rest of the group. Tubman carried a sharpshooter rifle during the Civil War. Myth: Harriet Tubman sang "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, and wade in the water, and follow the drinking gorge as singers of the Underground Railroad." Fact: Tubman sang 2 songs while operating her rescue mission. Both was listed in Sarah Bradford biography, Scenes in the Life of Harriet Tubman. That's another book, Go Down Moses, and Bound for the Promised Land. Tubman said she changed the tempo of the songs to indicate whether it was safe to come out or not. Follow the Drinking Gorge was first written and performed by Weavers, a white folk music group, in 1947, nearly 100 years after Tubman's days on the Underground Railroad. So we know that wasn't there, and she wasn't singing that. Swing Low, Sweet Chariot was written and composed after the Civil War by Cherokee Indian living in Oklahoma, and therefore would have been unknown to Tubman during the Civil War. So it wasn't one of that. So it wasn't that one either. Fake quotes and authentic quotes. A fake quote: "Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world." Original quote. There is no original quote for this. This quote was entirely made up in 2007. There is no documentation nor historical basis for this quote. Ta-da! That's my homeboy Crumb. He do that one. Fake quote. I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. And you hear that one being quoted over and over and over again. God damn. However, the original quote, there is no original quote for this. This quote was entirely made up too. It became popular or popularized starting sometime in the 90s. There's no documentation and no historical basis for this quote. Fake quote. Children, if you are tired, keep going. If you're hungry, keep going. If you want to taste freedom, keep going. Once again, original quote? There is no original quote for this one either. This quote was entirely made up and became popularized in the 1960s during the Civil Rights Movement. There is no documentation, no historical basis for this quote. Now, this is documented original, authentic quotes. I was the conductor of the Underground Railroad for 8 years. And I can say what most conductors cannot say. I never ran my train off the track. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Back on the scene. Harriet Tubman. Minty Ross is back on the scene. She said, I never ran my train off the track and I never lost a passenger. She said that, Harriet Tubman, at the Southbridge Convention, New York, 1896. And she said, I was a conductor of the Underground Railroad. Remember now, we just finished proving to you that she rode on real trains, and she was a conductor, obviously a real train. And she also could read. This, that she had to just get letters because somebody else had to write letters. She was obviously literate. She hung around with Frederick Douglass. I had the reasons this out of my mind that there was one or two things that I had a right to, liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other. For no man should take me alive, and I shall fight for my liberty as long as my strength lasts. And when the time came for me to go, the Lord would let them take me. Harriet Tubman to Sarah Bradford and Harriet the Moses of her people, 1886. There was no one to welcome me to the land of freedom. I was a stranger in a strange land, and my home, after all, was down in Maryland, because my father, my mother, my brothers, and my sisters and friends were there. But I was there. I was free, and they should be free. Harriet Tubman to Sarah Bradford in Scenes in the Life of Harriet Tubman, 1868. Slavery is next thing to hell. Harriet Tubman to Benjamin Drew, St. Catherine, Ontario, Canada, 1855. I grew up like a neglected weed, ignorant of liberty, having no experience of this. Then I was not happy or content. Harriet Tubman to Benjamin Drew, St. Catherine, Ontario, Canada, 1855. I prayed to God to make me strong and able to fight. That what I've always prayed for ever since. This is Tubman to Adam Dow Cheney, South Carolina, 1865. So these are the true quotes. This is the most true history, what I just gave you of Harriet Tubman. Everything else that you heard, bullshit. What was shown in the movie, most of that was bullshit. Right? Like I said, Harriet Tubman wasn't her birth name. She was one of 11 children. All right? Tubman was born Araminta Ross. All right? She probably was the real Betsy Ross. All right? Because there was no Betsy Ross. That shit was mythology too. All right? And once again, she was born in 1822, as we just showed. How did Harriet Tubman die? She died of pneumonia in March 10th, 1913. All right. Before her death, she told friends and family surrounding her deathbed, "I go to prepare a place for you." Tubman was buried with military honors in Auburn Fort Hill Cemetery. Her heirs were there, nieces, her niece, Mae Gaston, grandniece, Katie Stewart, and matron of the Harriet Tubman home, Frances Smith. These three women inherited Tubman's home and the 7 acres surrounding it. Right? How old was Tubman when she died? Tubman may have been between 88 to 98. All right, when she died, she claimed of her pension application that she was born in 1825. Actually, it was 1822. Her birth certificate says she was born in 1815, and it was added to the confusion. Her grave stone indicated that she was born in 1820. And like I said, most likely it was 1822. So she could have been between 88, 93 to 98, and somewhere in between when she died. Tubman always looked older than she was. Years of hard labor had a toll on her. All right, her brain damage was every day deliberating. She had brain surgery in Boston, Massachusetts General Hospital to alleviate the pain in 1911. Now, understand what happened to her. She was hit in the head with a butt of a gun, if I'm not mistaken, in which that caused her to go into convulsions and seizures. In 1911, she was too frail to live alone and moved next door to Harriet Tubman's home for the elderly. During her last 2 years, the charity home she created became her own home. Tubman outlived many abolitionists in her era, such as Frederick Douglass, William Seward, and William Lloyd Garrison. She also outlived 2 husbands. All right. So we talk about some of the routes. This is Harriet Tubman, some of the routes. Anti-slavery activist Harriet Tubman, who herself escaped brutal slavery owners in 1849, will become the first woman and the first African-American to be featured on a U.S. currency. This is when they was talking about putting her on a $20 bill. All right, now, of course, that's been put on the back burner. All right, since Trump been in office. That was proposed when Obama was in office. Now that has been put on the back burner, and we don't know. Some shit. It might just be indefinite. Who knows? We don't know when that might come up. All right. But here it is. Her story as a conductor during the 19th century of the Underground Railroad is always well known to Americans and being circulated anew thanks to a historical park that opened in 2017 as part of the rural Maryland where Tubman was born and raised. The park attracted visitors from all parts of the globe who are curious about Tubman's and her legendary Underground Railroad, a network of secret routes, passageways, and safe houses used by slaves seeking freedom. All right. Now, as we already seen, she actually was a conductor of a real railroad. All right, which they will not say. However, we're going to see some things, all right, in a few seconds here. But there was no real train. Oh, falsehood again. See? Falsehood. Let's go back to the facts. Fact. She used disguises. She walked, rode horses and wagons, sailed on boats, and rode on real trains. See, whenever you read, so you got to learn how to read in between the lines and see the lies. See the lies. All right? They're trains without track. See, this is the bullshit that they telling you. There was no real train. Runaway slaves traveled in the woods all night. Oh, boss, we need to get into the woods. And navigated by the North Star. They used a boat when they could to prevent dogs from picking up their scents. Runaways was smuggled in hidden compartments of carriages, all right, and met in deserted places like cemeteries. Many used disguises, but they're railroads without tracks. What the fuck are they talking about, yo? See, this is the bullshit that we keep coming back to. Because they don't want you to know that you use railroads, actual railroads. So why they keep teaching you this fallacy? When Harriet Tubman herself said that she was a conductor and that she can say something that most conductors cannot say, that she never lost a passenger. And she never ran the train off the track. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, back on the scene. That's old school. You don't know nothing about that. So, this is what they want you to believe. Oh, Harriet. Many passengers made their way to William Still, a free Black man in Philadelphia, in other words, in Moore, who was one of the Underground Railroad's most important conductors. In his memoirs, Still wrote that many of Tubman's contemporaries feared for Tubman's safety as her journey took her away for weeks at a time, but she seemed wholly devoid of personal fear. The idea of being captured by slave hunters or slaveholders seemed never to have entered her mind. She was apparently proof against all adversity. So see, this is what they talk about with the $100 bill. When then Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew announced the decision to put Tubman on the new $20 bill, he described her as not just a historical figure, but a role model for leadership and participation in our democracy. Now, there was no democracy during that time. It was only the republic. Now, more than 100 years after her death in 1913, she is about to become one of the most recognizable faces. So this is when they was talking about that. But it also said that she used passageways. So let's look at that. They did tell you that secret. So let's look at it again. Runaway slaves traveled in the woods at night, navigated by the North Star. They used boats when they could to prevent dogs from picking up their scent. Runaways were smuggled in in hidden compartments in carriages and met in deserted places like cemeteries. Many used disguises. Throughout their journey, they were pursued by slave catchers and others in hope to collect cash rewards, all right, for their capture. Now, where's it at here? We just finished reading about it. A network of secret routes, passageways, and safe houses was used by the slaves seeking freedom. So passageways. Well, let's look at some of these passageways because Jordan Peele from Keenan and Peele gives us some secrets here in Us. Here's the truth about the unexplained tunnels in Jordan Peele's Us. Us is the movie. All right, go and check out the Us movie. All right, horror masterpiece Us claims that there are vast underground networks of tunnels beneath America. But is it true? Of course it is. You've been saying this shit that it was true with Harriet Tubman. This is written by Eric Shorey. Right? So the shit was true about Harriet Tubman and these passageways and these underground railroads, tunnels, so forth and so on. But Keenan Peele talks about that. He said there are thousands of miles of tunnels beneath the United States, abandoned subway systems, unused service routes, and deserted mine shafts, many has not known the purpose at all. And with this ominous forward, Jordan Peele record-breaking horror film Us begins. Peele's latest masterpiece, because he did Get Out, and that shit was definitely a masterpiece, tells the story of a family engaged in a battle for their lives after their doppelgangers emerge, clones. As the I'll put after really, I mean, if you really want to think about it, you know, I don't want to get too far into the cloning thing, you know, because that's another thing that we can go into. All right. But basically, you had the apocalypse narrative unfolding. We're told that the evil doubles emerged from the sewer, having lived their wretched lives in the vast underground networks of clandestine tunnels existing just below our society. All right. And although the situation is clearly a metaphor for class and identity, Peele initiated claims that that basically the existence of an American subterranean world is a terrifying one. Could it be true? Now, as it turns out, Peele's assertion about America's underground tunnels are far less far-fetched than it may seem at first glance. The idea of a massive underground network has been the basis for plenty of conspiracies, with theorists engaging in endless debates about the existence of such tunnels, as well as the extent to which that these passages were or used for drugs and human trafficking or by the government for nefarious military reasons. And it's all of that, all right? But Harriet Tubman used some of these passages, all right, in these tunnels, all right? And we'll get to that in a minute, all right? Let me continue on. Here it is, Jordan Peele to us. Are there really thousands of miles of hidden tunnels all across the country? Yes. Wherever you go, there's something underneath your feet that people don't think about. Will Hunt, who authored the book Underground. So this is where Jordan Peele got that concept from this book by Will Hunt, Underground. All right. Now, so they want to roast Portia, all right? In Us magazine, Portia Stewart thought the Underground Railroad was a real train. Now, she is the granddaughter of Hosea Williams, who stood by the side of Dr. Martin Luther King during the so-called Civil Rights Movement. All right, we knew Brother Hosea Williams. I was there in Atlanta, Georgia in 1994, 95, before his death, in which that he would pass out turkeys every year during Thanksgiving. All right. Now, why did Portia think that the Underground Railroad was a real train? And then they had to correct her. But then I just showed you the facts versus the mythology. The fact is that there was real trains. That's a fact. All right. But yet, the information that they keep telling us, they were just running through the woods. Run, Forrest, run. That's the mentality that they keep telling us. So Portia Stewart had her Jessica Simpson Chicken of the Sea moment on the December 22nd episode of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, but her lapse had much more historical context than any fish or fowl mix-up. The 32-year-old visited a landmark church with holes in the floor where it was used for ventilation on the Underground Railroad as led by Harriet Tubman during the pre-Civil War era. The group tour guide said they still do not know how groups escaped slaves managed to get in and out from the crawl space. All right. Stewart, whose grandfather was civil rights Hosea Williams, as we said, civil rights movement, quickly piped in with her thoughts on the matter. Well, there had to have been an opening for a railroad at some point, she said, because somebody driving the train. It's not electric like what we have now. Oh, wait. So she dropping this shit, this science, and they saying that she had a chicken head moment. But she knew what the fuck she was talking about. Well, there has been an opening for a railroad at some point, she said, because somebody's driving the train is not electric like what we have now. And Harriet Tubman once again used this terminology. But they say she was a chicken head. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, this is the BS that they did to her. But once again, Keenan Peele, in the opening of his movie, not Keenan Peele, but Jordan Peele of Keenan and Peele, in the opening of his movie, Us, he states from William Hunt's book how there was underground tunnels, so forth and so on. See, you see how when you do research, how this shit comes together? Even though you might be using chicken head information, not secondhand information, chicken head information, because they was calling Portia chicken head for that. Because she thought it was a real train. It is a real train, god damn it. And she was a real conductor. See, they don't want us to know this. Another good person to get and subscribe to, you got to subscribe to this new channel, y'all. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to my new channel. You need to subscribe, all right? Tell all your other friends, tell them that, yo, Alim is on. Get your asses to the section. We still halfway finished. We ain't finished yet, all right? But anyway, the history of the rail transportation in North America was said to have started with the construction of wooden railroads, said wagon ways started in 1720s, 100 years before the birth of Harriet Tubman / Araminta Ross. Araminta Ross. Before her birth, 100 years before her birth, they already had this. All right, similar to the B&O railroads, the South Carolina Canal and a railroad company was also chartered in 1827 to connect Charleston, South Carolina to the Savannah River. Its first 6 miles or 10 kilometers rail line was said to have been in operation by 1830. All of this was before she started her mission. Okay? So we know that that was already in the South. So that means that it had already been in the North too. If that was in South Carolina, then you know you had to have had the same sophisticated system in Maryland. By the year of the 1850s, there was 9,000 or 14,000 kilometers of railroad lines said to have been built in the United States. Here they are. I'm showing you an actual picture of the railroadways. And as you see, coming up from Maryland into New York. You see from DC into New York. All right. For those who don't know, Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass were in Rochester, New York. Right? Here you can see it better. Right? This here are the pathways in which that oftentimes the so-called slaves used in order to get out. All right? These are the waterways. As we said, she also used boats. So she just didn't use trains, she used boats. She also used passageways. All right? And this is what we was talking about. This is just examples of the trains at the time. All right? Because it's correlated to the chicken head moment that we just talked about with Portia Stewart, the granddaughter of Hosea Williams, civil rights leader, right-hand man to Dr. Martin Luther King. Okay? That this was built, once again, here it is, 1826, opening in 1831, before Harriet Tubman's mission. Myth, secret tunnels and hidden rooms, Underground Railroad myths. Most hidden tunnels found are actually linked to other parts of our history. The Lakewood Historical Society took a look at their old tunnels that they found in the early 1900s. Past director Maisie Adams wrote that the tunnels came to the conclusion that the tunnels was actually a small culvert. Like many, the dotted city, there was used to drain the water away from the roads and was much too small for runaway to crawl through. Most fugitive slaves would have run under the cover of darkness, not in the tunnels and stations. Now, of course, you would hide if you possibly could. All right. A station of the Underground Railroads often did not have hidden rooms in the basements, attics, or garage. The most important thing to think about these disgusting tunnels or secret rooms is to ask one question: how practical would these have been? So here it is. They're saying that they ran underground places and tunnels and so forth, so on, but they would have been all right for hiding temporarily, but not for moving. So these was not passageways. So that means that we have to get back to the fact that there was real trains, as Portia stated, and as the facts in which that we read earlier. All right. This is how these tunnels looks. All right, so when you get about these tunnels, talking about the ones in which that really run through, you see these tunnels in South Carolina. Because remember, she was in South Carolina during the Civil War as a spy, but you see them in Virginia. Now, these are the ones particularly in Maryland, where she was. And I'm pretty sure that she had to have used some of these tunnels, rail tunnels, that is, because she had a train, all right? And you'll see here, you had the Henry Tunnel, rail tunnel, that was 1850, all right? That was probably one of the main ones in which that was used. The other ones, as you see here, a lot of them came after her mission. They don't state what the other ones were. Like, for example, the Baltimore and Potomac tunnels, the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel, the Broaden Tunnel. Well, they say the Broaden Tunnel was 1911, so that was after the rest of them. But the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel, twin tunnels, all right, and then the Baltimore and Potomac tunnels, and then of course we have the Harrington Tunnel, all right, in which that was 1850. All right, so all the other tunnels that we're talking about was after her mission, right? But we do have tunnels, as you say, Paw Tunnel, as you see here, Abandoned Canal Tunnel. This is Canal Tunnel. So you could use the Canal Tunnel, but here it is, 1850, right? 1850 again, all right? And it was abandoned. So more than likely, that could have been the Paw Tunnel. And pawpaws right now are an indigenous fruit like papaya, which is also called pawpaw. These papayas actually grow in North Carolina indigenously. But here we have it in New Jersey. She had to go up into New Jersey. There was also tunnels that was built during the time period. And as you see here, most of these tunnels not even listed the time that it was built, right? But New Jersey and New York have tunnels in which that are very ancient, right? So here it is. And then they made them into subway lines and so forth and so on. But a lot of these tunnels was already built. You had the Tartarian, the Moors or the Tartarians, and this is what I was getting ready to say. Y'all need to check out and subscribe to not just this channel, but also to a lady by the name of Michelle Gibson. Michelle Gibson, very, very astute. All right, she's very astute at decoding this information. You got to start listening to her. And all right, she came with us on this cruise that we just went on. Yo, we had a fantastic time. We're getting ready to have another cruise coming up soon. We're gonna have the flyers out real soon. All right, watch for that. All right, but here they are. New York, other tunnels that was in New York, so forth and so on. So there's tunnels, abandoned and active, or those in which that was also turned into. All right, so here it is, the Gravity Railroad. Here began one of the first railroads in the Western Hemisphere, built 1828 to 1829. The line had its eastern terminus at Hunsdale. Its southwestern terminus was later extended to Archibald and ultimately to Valley Junction near Oliphant, built by the Delaware and Hudson to move coal to D&H Canal. This line eventually provided passenger service and operation until the beginning of 1899. All right, this was in Delaware. So, between Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, that was the way in which that she had to take these 70, 100, 20 to 140 passengers that she took out from Maryland, from out of slavery, all right, or PO servitude, POW servitude. Right, the New York Central Railroad was set to operate in 1853 with the consolidation of early independent companies running between Albany and Buffalo. All right. Of course, they had extensions way before that, as we see here. We are told extensive trackage existed in the state of New York, Philadelphia, or Pennsylvania rather, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Massachusetts, and West Virginia, plus additional trackage in Ontario and Quebec, and by 1925 operated 26,395 miles or 42,479 kilometers of track. So we had the tracks that came up from the south right here, Then we had the tracks that comes across, going across the Great Lake region. So from the south, along the eastern seaboard, across from the eastern seaboard, northern eastern seaboard, all the way across into the mid, in which that we find that area, all right, what is now known as the Great Lake region. So the story of this great hero is blurred by Euro descendants who had tried their best to control the narrative. All right, they tried their best to control the narrative. Controlling the narrative is over. All right. It's not only important that her story is told, but that the true story is told, which we did here. While Euro descendants academic argue about whether she was born 1815 or 1820, none of them accept her own claim to be born 1825, right? So we know that she had been born in 1822, 1825, somewhere around there. This is because they did not want to acknowledge that she was only 24, not 29 to 34, when she gathered the courage to run away in 1849, excuse me. It is vital to the Euro supremacist narrative that very young blacks, like Moors, don't identify themselves with her and gather similar revolutionary spirit. At birth in Maryland, she was given the name Araminta Ross. It was after she escaped slavery and met with Dr. Martin Delany. Now, Martin Delany, he was a Mason, high degree Mason. Also, he would be called the father of the chematology, 1812 to 1885, and they say he was the African American Renaissance man, or Moorish Renaissance man, as I call him. That he urged her to change her name to an African one. Right? Delaney graduated from Harvard Medical School, and he encouraged Egyptology there, and went on researching expeditions to Africa. He became the first major African American scholar to research Kemet as well as Yoruba culture. He laid the foundation for the modern Afrocentric movement, right? She was awed at his knowledge. He taught her a lot about not only her history, but her African spiritual powers. So see, this is a part that they don't tell you about, how Harriet Tubman or Araminta Ross met Dr. Martin Delany, high degree Mason, chematology, Egyptology. And so Dr. Delany taught her, and she is the daughter of the feminine form of the Kemetic, Kushite Kemetic supreme being, Harriet. From then on, she told Euro-Americans reporters that her name was Harriet. All right? And you know they ain't never say that. Also, as what she meant, they wrote down Rit and assumed it was a short name for Harriet. You get it? In fact, she never even told Euro-American reporters that her own name was Harriet. Listening to Dr. Delaney's teaching, she reclaimed an African name, and really is not African because the ancient Egyptians was here in the Americas before they went into Africa. Now, they came from out of the interior of Africa, just like we all did millions and billions of years ago. However, they went back after they built the pyramids here and went into the interior of Africa and got permission from the Ethiopians, the Kushite relatives, to drudge the land in what we now refer to as the Great Delta of Egypt, Kemet. In fact, like we said, she never told him that. Listening to Dr. Delaney teaching, she reclaimed the African name and began to call herself HARRIET. HARRIET, the feminine form of Heru. The Euro-Americans misquote and miswrote it as Harriet. She did not correct them because she could not initially read or write due to enslavement. Her surname Tubman was also not a slave name, nor written correctly. On the teachings of Dr. Delaney, she held her name to be Tubman or Tudman, all right? The word TBN is metroneture, meaning quickness. That was exactly what she wanted to be, as her quickness would have to be what allowed her to escape so many from the right under the nose of the Euro-Americans. So that is the real science behind how Araminta Ross really received the name Harriet Tubman. It was ancient Kemetic. They saying it's African, but it's not just African, it's American. All right, because we got proof. If you get Barry Fell's book, America, BC, he tells you that the Micmac tribes and other tribes wrote metroneture right here in the Americas, hundreds and thousands of years ago. Right, if you get Augustus Le Ponchillon in his book, Ponchillon, in his book, he writes that ancient Egypt was already here. You get the fact that the Smithsonian tried to hide information concerning those 18 temples in the Grand Canyon, ancient Egyptian temples, that is. All right. So there's a lot. So she was obsessed with the story of Heru, Auset, and Osar, as introduced to her by Dr. Delaney. As Heruet, she swore to be the savior of her people, using the devotion of Auset in recovery for the dismembered husband to single-handedly liberate thousands of enslaved Africans, mostly to Canada. And we know it wasn't thousands, as we just finished saying. All right. She had never intended to for them to just remain in Canada, but to save up and return to Africa. All right. As was her wish. Well, she herself passed from here. She herself to remain in the United States to inspire those around her. That the true story of Harriet or Harriet Tubman, the feminine hero who saved the masses with great quickness, be told of our children for eternity. Come soon. All right, so that's what we have. We wanted to give you some true information, not the BS. All right, you tired of the BS? All right. All right. We want to make sure that this info get out. I'm glad that y'all got a chance to come on. Love Live Light said, fuck it. Let's round up 144. Word, 144,000. No doubt, no doubt. That's really the what we want to do. Yeah, real railroad, baby. That's right, self. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? But they keep telling us the same bullshit. But Portia know what the hell she was talking about, because she learned that from her grandfather. All right? They used to believe that it was real train. All of a sudden, these motherfuckers since the 1970s started telling us some bullshit that it wasn't a real train. that it was just a running through the woods, boss. We're trying to get there, boss. We're trying to get the hell up out of slavery. We're trying to get back to where we can be free. This is what they've been telling us. So we just wanted to give you some of that good info. We have some events coming up, so stay tuned for the events that we got coming up. We had a good, this past week, we had an excellent time with those who got a chance to come out. We love each and every one of you that got a chance to actually come out. You know, it's good, you know, that we can get on YouTube, you know, and do these types of things, but it's even better when you can come out and you can actually meet people face to face. All right, so we've been holding it down, going to these various events since December the 21st, since the winter solstice. So we've been going to there, we've been going all the way until now, January the 1st. So this is something that I've been wanting to do, but put out actually for the last month or two, but just didn't do it. Brother Elohi basically took over the other station, channel for the time being, but I'm trying to get this one up and popping. All right, so a word, self, no doubt. It'd be good to see you, God. So just stay firm on this information and knowledge. Don't let nobody move you from it, because none of the shit that they're telling us make any sense. We know that we're indigenous and aboriginal. We know that we're talking about the Lenape, that they're coming from out of the Maryland population. And then if it's coming from any further down south, then that would still be part of what we refer to as the Washita, the Lenape or Washita, all right? The Nanacoke Moors, the Lenape Moors, all the way down into the Washita Moors, as from out of Louisiana, from out of Mississippi, from out of Alabama, the Creek, the Muskogee as they're called, on up into Florida, or across to Florida. That would be the Seminoles, who actually are the Yamasee or the Yamasee people, on up into South Carolina, North Carolina, the Cherokee, all the way into Oklahoma, all right, with more than 10,000 so-called Aboriginal indigenous people was also on the Trail of Tears. So we're getting more and more information, and we putting this thing together in order to destroy any and all naysayers. All right? Any and all naysayers. That's just what it is. All right? We tired of the lies. We want truth. All right? All right, so we'll come back. I'm gonna keep coming back almost every day doing these lives, getting this channel built up. All right, so we're gonna do it like we did last year. Hopefully this won't get demonetized. If we can get it to monetization, which isn't until I get 10,000 subscribers. The other one got demonetized. All right, so that's a problem. For those that want to show support, go to my Patreon. We have videos that are there. So everybody, please support. All right, peace. We out, y'all. Eyate Washito Ish. And also, let me say our famous joint, I can't forget, continuing now for days, weeks, months, years to come. We're moving towards our most cherished goals of health, wealth, knowledge of ourselves, protection, security, better economic conditions, and full contentment. Every action, enterprise, and endeavor which we wish to be involved is bringing increasing rewards. We have so much abundance and success in our lives that we're able to help and share with those who are sincere along the way. We're moving closer toward the wonders of God and guidance and a full release of our inner higher selves. Ashe. All right, we out, y'all. Oh, peace, Straight Panther. Yay. Oh, yeah, thanks, Brother Rakim. No doubt. Yeah, they definitely need to do their own homework. No doubt about that. Yeah, thanks, Faithy. No doubt. Appreciate you. Thank you for listening.